Our grant has not gone as we would like it to because we can't get people to give shots. So we have small numbers.
Who have you tried to work with to partner with to give shots?
Our community health, CVS, Walgreens, Blue Cross, or I should say Florida Blue, but it's really like Blue Cross. I mean, it's Florida Blue, but yes. Anyway, so we haven't gone very far with ours. Nothing like we expected. So we're also in Florida, so we have the Don't Give COVID Shot campaign going. So
well, that is anti-productive for what you're trying to do, for sure.
Yeah, which is okay. It just is what it is. But and then we also just keep hoping that maybe this will get, at the federal level, just say keep going with it, and then we don't have to return money, and we'll just keep going. We also had some other stuff, which is not anybody else's issue, although in general, and just hiring people here, period, has been an issue. So we've had issues with that. So that's just life. But we haven't had people come in. So
Deborah, so we have a smaller group today. I think everybody had to re-register, so I'm not sure what that looks like. Do you want to share what you're doing with your program and with some of the funding? Just wondering. I'd rather see if the group has ideas versus me sharing anything at this point, because it would just be what I've heard. So I didn't know, Deborah, if you wanted to share it all. I'm going to take that as a no for right now. Because what I was going to say is I know that some places have partnered with like local family care, like your primary physician offices, and also worked with like EMTs and bring nurses on board with them. And that way it's like a traveling vaccine site. I know some people have had luck with that. But if you're not going to get CVS and Walgreens and those bigger name folks we know that are doing the vaccines.
Right. Yeah. So we have reached out to a traveling pharmacist group who hasn't responded. And we also, I guess one of my staff members is on, and she was saying, I'm trying to read what she said here. Hang on one second. I can't read what she just texted. So hang on one second here. But we've what did she say there? She said, that we are both in the same. Yeah. So Debbie Stanwood, who's on, is with us. So yeah. Okay. So we're the same agency. And so we have partnered with our Community Health of Northwest Florida, and they've been going to some of the HUD and senior housing spaces. And so they've been getting some flu shots in some of those spots. So we've been getting like small numbers, but it's still it's something. But like we had 13 shots the other day, but it's not huge numbers. And originally I thought we would get like easily 3,000 shots, no problem. We're like at, very, very small numbers. So it's just what we're at right now.
Well, I think, with them expanding with this project in particular, COVID, I think flu, shingles, there's lots of different vaccines that they're covering with this. So that might be easier to kind of push versus some of the COVID stuff. Especially with some of like the older population with shingles, like that 55 plus group. I know that was a big push. But even like RSV vaccines and things like that, with babies coming about in this last year and RSV really making a comeback, unfortunately, traveling everywhere. I know that's been a popular one that people have started including in that push for vaccines. Have y'all tried any of those? Because then maybe that can dodge some of that anti-vaccine group if you kind of away from the COVID. Not that you're not going to offer it, but if you advertise it more of just vaccines versus like COVID.
Right. So we certainly could look at doing that too. What I think is one of the bigger, well, not bigger, one challenge is also, I think that the grant can't pay for vaccines. It only pays for staffing. So you could pay for, like, if you had the traveling pharmacist respond or a traveling nurse respond, you can pay for the nurse or the pharmacist time, but you still can't get a hold of the vaccine that they would use. So for example, we have a local nonprofit that is a clinic for folks who don't have insurance, but they only ordered flu shot for their patients. And we've been trying to get them to sign an MOU for a little bit. And they're usually, we've done a lot of other things with them before at other events and things that we've had that we've both been participatory at before. For whatever reason, they haven't signed it, but they haven't signed the MOU, but they will only do this for their patients because it's just too expensive for the flu shot for them to give to anybody else. And they're not purchasing the other vaccines at all because they're too expensive. So that's been a challenge. And then, so there's just different pieces that have been challenging with it. So, but I mean, in between now and April, we could get maybe a little bit of creative. The other side of it, at least our partner for the federal side has said you can do it if you've advertised that you're having a clinic, then you can do it. Or if you've partnered with somebody and you're both advertising that you're going to do this, you can do it. But I can't go camp out someplace where they might be giving shots and just have them give shots. Like, you have to advertise that it's going to be, this is why we're doing it. So as an example for that would be if I went and just sat out at labor and delivery and everybody was going to get an RSV shot when they're born, I can't just get those RSV shots. Does that make sense? Like, it has to be like you're planning this particular date to have X shots. So it is a little bit of an obscurity of how it's all happening, but we're going to get credit for whatever we get credit for. We're working on it.
And I think we did a project a couple years ago, and I think who shows up is the ones that needed to show up, and you can keep pushing and keep trying, and that I think you're able to get some that's more than not getting any.
Right.
And actually, Alyssa, I saw that you joined us. I know you've been kind of on some different committees and stuff. Do you have any ideas of rewording some of that language? To maybe, I don't know if you heard the whole thing, Carolyn and Debbie are in Florida. And so there's not a big open arms welcome to vaccines. I didn't know if you had any ideas.
Yeah, this is Alyssa with April. Yeah, Florida poses its own very special issues with that. Let me think about that. I know we've got some resources from the CDC Foundation grant. We did some training on language and barriers. I think some of the things that we found really helpful were looking at what's going on in the community, sporting events. We had some vaccine clinics at tailgating parties. So you kind of meet the community where they are.
Right.
And, sports is big pretty much everywhere.
Right.
So that might be a resource for you. I will, I'll look and see where all that stuff is housed. I think it's on the April website. Some of those trainings, and they are Zoom, they were recorded. So yeah, you might find some of that helpful. Yep. The concert, I just saw in the chat. Yeah, anything like that where there are going to be a lot of folks. So the date, of course, is already set. You know that this thing is happening, so then you can coordinate with that. Yeah.
Oh, so I was
Right.
actually on the last ADVC. I don't know if you've attended their office hours, the bigger grant, not just for CILs, but
Right.
they do that bigger office hours on Friday, every Friday at 11.
Mm-hmm.
They've had some really great conversations around creating events around this and then how you work with that partnership. It sounds like you're almost at step one before that, though, of like getting the vaccine and getting it there. But I'm wondering if you're doing this big event, if somebody else is doing the big event or whatever, and then you can kind of go, hey, can we add this on as a
Right.
boost? I know there's some CILs that have been doing health fairs and
Mm-hmm.
not vaccine related. They're bringing in vaccines are one booth, one stop, but they're having either dental students or dentists there to do teeth checks or vision care, and they're doing full just everything health related. And
Right.
that is one stop that people have the option to do.
Mm-hmm.
That might sell it a little bit better in your state if we're doing just health clinics and that's one option. Um, that might encourage more people to kind of get on board, maybe like a CVS or a Walgreens if they know that it's targeted towards wellness.
Mm-hmm.
That might help. I'm wondering.
Right.
But I definitely, there's so many good ideas. The first 30 minutes of those calls, they do like a presentation on something. And then the second 30 minutes is just an open conversation with, and that's not, like I said, it's open to everyone in the grant. So it's not just
Mm-hmm.
CILs. But that might, and there might be, I wonder if we can, what I'll do is I'll reach out to Jennifer Hammer too, who kind of runs this program, and see if there's other people in your state that maybe are not a CIL that you can coordinate with. So there's like the
So
triple. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
so I'm sorry. I was just going to say, so we have, like, for example, we have in South Florida, we had somebody who was doing really well with it, who is a CIL. They've been partnering with food banks, and I'm not sure exactly who's doing their shots for them, but they have somebody that's doing shots. And then the other is we have a different CIL who's been very in with their health clinics, who have been giving a lot of shots, and they were able to get, because they were in the original vaccine collaborative that Abel was part of, from South Carolina, and so they were able to do that one. We did we were with Florida with vaccine clinics originally, and did some. Ours were smaller, but we were able to do some of those originally too at that time. But we're having, the biggest problem we're having is having persons available to give, having shots available to be given of some kind, so that we can join in on that. That's I guess our biggest other side of it. And if they were available, then we could do that. Like we have events that we go to. So for example, I'll have the staff member who will be at a fairly large event on Saturday, but there's no shots being given there. So even though she'll be there, and she'll give out vaccine and health information, but that doesn't help you to give the vaccines themselves to get credit for shots in arms. So, but anyway, it's just stuff. It's just part of the puzzle. So,
Well, and I can keep searching. That group, sure you're not alone though. It sounds like other people in Florida have had some success, and it's just finding that niche in your local community of the organization or the person to
right.
actually put the shots in arms and then getting the actual shot. So those are questions I can send out to the larger group, and just say, hey, how are y'all able to pull this off? What's your tricks and any techniques or things?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I can follow back up with you at that point, if that's helpful. I know it doesn't help in the moment,
Sure.
but there's
Sure.
a whole group of people working on the same thing. So
Right. Right. Sure. I mean, if you happen to hear something, we'd love to hear that back. I mean, I know that I was on an April call a few months ago, and there were quite a few people on. So it's funny that Debbie and I are the ones that are on the call, and there's not a whole lot of other people. So, but I was surprised I had to re-log in, which the last time I didn't have to do that. So I just logged on and I was on. So
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at the settings on the back end to just make sure that they're all done right. I know we've had some transition since then, so
yeah,
making
yeah,
sure that, and people are kind of finding, I feel like January was one of those months everybody was like trying to find their footing again after the end of
right.
2023. So
Yeah, yeah. So what else is new in April for us to know in the far out lands of Florida?
well, I mean, right now we have some great work going with the core conversations. We have a
Mhm,
youth coordinators call that happens the first Tuesday. Is that right, Abby?
mhm,
First Tuesday or second Tuesday?
I started talking and realized I was muted. It is the first Tuesday. So next Tuesday, the 5th, we have a youth coordinators call at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
And then the core conversations, which you might be familiar with them, of the
Mhm,
rural conversations. They were called IL conversations. They've been called the conversations for all different ways, but now they're called core conversations. So we're really starting to hone in on what are the core services that CILs offer,
mhm,
and what does that look like in different communities. We target what our local community needs and carry those services out very differently depending on what the needs are of the community. And so kind of talking to each other about how are each still carrying that out and what that looks like, and then learning from each other in that manner. We're working with the ADVC. We're also, I'm trying to think if Florida has had theirs yet. One of the other thing we're doing is we're working with, it's through ACL and HSRI, which I can never remember what HSRI stands for. Alyssa, if you remember, let me know. But
Human Services Research Institute.
thank you. So we're working with them on CMS is coming state by state and doing reviews of HCBS facilities. And so they are reaching out. Our job is to reach out to the CILs and the CIL in your state and make sure that y'all are included. So any issues that you see that are violating those HCBS settings rule, and any of the waiver programs. And so they're taking that information because they're doing a site visit in each of the states, and they're actually using that information on those calls. So if you say like, this site has done this, they'll go and review that site and put that part in their report, and they'll ask questions around the issues that you all are seeing, which is really exciting that we're able to see from the top down some change and some like enforcement. So we've been doing that. We also have, we're working with the DTAC on employment conversations. So any employment readiness programs that CILs are doing or want to do, any services that you're offering and providing or collaborating with in your community on employment, whether that's internships, apprenticeships, actual part-time employment, or volunteering, even like how are you getting consumers ready for employment, and then how are we supporting them in those roles, who you're collaborating with. So we were doing that once a month as well, having some conversations. I'm actually really excited. We have, she's a board member, but she's also works at a CIL, who will help lead some of those calls, and they have an amazing employment program and just things that we haven't even thought of before. I'm like, that it's just leading the way. So
And which cell is that, or where is that one?
I don't remember where she's from, but she's in Texas. It's
Okay.
Lydia. And again,
Lydia
Valley.
Fonseca. She's down in McAllen, right?
Yeah, she's at Vail.
there you go.
Okay.
See, between all three of us, thank you guys. We all know all those details. But yeah, so she's going to be kind of talking with us and other CILs about what we're doing. We just kicked that off this in February. So that's really exciting to see that, to continue that
Good.
conversation.
That's good.
I'm trying to
We'll try
think.
to get Danny on our team. Does a lot of employment and pre-ets program stuff. So we'll try to get him to come to some of the stuff. Sometimes what happens is, you get consumers or events that are taking place during April calls, and then you have to say, oh, well, which thing do you do, this or that? And you have to, weigh things out. But we've certainly mentioned, we try to share when I see emails and try to get information out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah.
We always appreciate that. I mean, it's hard to try to balance what you're doing on the ground and then trying to get the training for what you're doing on the ground and compare stuff. It is a balancing act. So
Yep.
having that trickle down in a team effort to kind of get that information is always helpful. I will say our advocacy committee is really up and moving. We have a transportation committee that's going to be talking specifically about advocacy around transportation issues. So I believe, oh, go ahead.
I remember being on that call. That was an active, that particular core conversation that took place was packed. Packed content.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, definitely. There was so much, there's always, that's what I love about the core conversations though, is there's so much information shared that it just sitting in there and absorbing all of those things is so helpful. And then using the content that's shared. So definitely a lot of stuff going on. I'm sure y'all have a lot of stuff. Alyssa, I see your hands up. Did you have a question?
I did. I just wanted to, this is Alyssa. I just wanted to go back really quickly. Carolyn, you also might want to reach out to your local pharmacies and see if they have someone available to administer the vaccines. They're not, of course, as required anymore because of the federal declaration is over. But you might be able to get someone from a local pharmacy to come and administer them at an event that you're having. Or the public health department. They're supposed to be the ones as well.
Right.
I think you said that you had reached out to the health department, correct?
Right. So we have Community Health of Northwest Florida is part of the public health area here, and they are doing some things smaller, but they are doing some. So it's not because it's complicated because it costs them money for the shots too, and so they're trying to make sure that they're going into the arms of folks that they would be covering anyway, who qualify under their systems, or that they have health insurance that will pay for their shots. So anyways, yes, it's a yes. It is so around difficult matters. We were at another one where there were several hundred people that were being seen, and because Walgreens at that particular event had to take people's names, it was a RAM event, which is remote access medical care, and because they had to take people's names at that event to put with what vial they were being injected with, they told Walgreens that they had to leave because they couldn't take people's names. They weren't allowed to take people's names, which was kind of nuts. But Walgreens said, well, we can't give shots if we can't have people's names. And then in our end, if we were going to be giving money away for due diligence, while our surveys with data that we were taking had no names, I at least had to have people sign that they were getting money. I was giving them gift cards. And I'm like, oh my God. So at least they didn't come to me about doing the gift cards, but they were already, anyway, we only were able to give away a few. So at that particular event, before that kind of went, it's just kind of interesting how things are set up. But.
It sounds like a lot of red tape that is crossing over each other.
Exactly. That's
yeah.
life. Well, we don't need to occupy all of your wonderful time for the two of us to be on the call with the three of you for extra long periods of time.
Well, no worries. I did write down your questions, and what I'll do is I'll reach out to US Aging, who's kind of overseeing this, and ask them, hey, what are you finding on this? I would also encourage you, I don't know if you are part of the SharePoint that we have, but it links to the resource hub that is a part of this. And have you looked on there for any resources around this?
Yeah, I think that that Debbie has done more of that, and we do have our person that is with the US Aging and her boss as well. I mean, it's not that we haven't talked with them. I was just looking to see if there was any other pieces that might be just like, well, so here's one right there that we didn't touch yet that everybody had on their list, and so that was
Well,
okay.
and this group also, I believe, also has an email list just for CILs. I believe we
Mhm.
got together on here. So we can also send that out through that email listserv too of like, hey, we have a CIL that's run into this. Does anybody have any feedback? And kind of start a conversation that way. If that's helpful, because I think sometimes it's an overall issue, but sometimes it's a little bit more niche based when we're talking about
Mhm.
CILs and how that looks and building some of those community partners. So we can also do that. We can at least ask all the people and see what we get back and see if it's different than what you've already had.
Right. Well, we appreciate that. And, it was just, obviously, it was a grant that was we thought going to be good money to come back in, that we would be making good use of because we could do good with it. And while we're of course, we're being transparent and using the funds that we are doing well with, we are making very little movement forward, which is unfortunate, but reality. So, that's how it'll be. The only other good news that, like I said, that we would hear is at this point, now that the mechanism of the whole thing is very clear for us anyway. If we knew now going into October, if we were gonna go forward, if they said that it wasn't gonna end on April 15th, then money could be carried over, that would be our next best thing at this point. And then not having to reapply, but just that we could carry it over. But at this point, we
Yeah,
haven't.
I think that's their discussion they're going to have in April is a no cost extension, but I don't know if that's still very much in the works. So I think that is being discussed, but there won't be any direction until April from what I understand. So
Right.
hopefully that you'll definitely be somebody that would benefit from that for sure.
Right. Well, and I think that one would be easier because we'd be able to set that up going forward to say to all these places, we know you're going to be doing this, this, and this. We'd like to be in on that for this purpose and just go forward from where we are. And that would be a possibility.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking some time to spend with us today. We won't hold you up, but I have some notes on what we can follow up on, and I can at least send you and start some conversations and ask people what they've come across if that works.
Yeah.
And we'll try to find some answers.
That would be fine. Thank you so very much. And Sierra and Abby, and I don't know who was it. Alyssa, was that the third person?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. All right. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate all three of you, and thank you to the sign language interpreter. That I guess is if anybody wanted to hear this recording, which I don't know that anybody else would want to, but but at least the option would be there. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Hope you have a good day.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.